Imagine the world was full of frogs. How will life change? If the world was suddenly full of frogs, it would have a significant impact on our environment and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Ecological impact. The increase in the frog population would cause a shift in the food chain, as they would become a more significant food source for predators such as snakes, birds, and larger mammals. Additionally, the increase in frogs could impact insect populations, as frogs are natural predators of insects like mosquitoes and flies. Human health. Frogs can carry diseases such as salmonella, which could pose a risk to human health if the population is not managed appropriately. Additionally, the increase in frogs could lead to an increase in the population of disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes, which could increase the risk of mosquito-borne illnesses like malaria and dengue fever. Agriculture. Frogs could potentially have a positive impact on agriculture, as they eat insects that can damage crops. However, if the frog population grows too large, they could start eating crops, leading to decreased yields and economic losses for farmers. Infrastructure. The increase in frogs could impact infrastructure such as roads, as they may be more prone to hopping onto the road and getting hit by cars. This could lead to increased roadkill and damage to vehicles. Overall, the sudden increase in frogs would have a significant impact on our environment and daily lives, and it would be important to manage the population appropriately to prevent any negative consequences. Imagine the world was full of locusts. How will life change? If the world was suddenly full of locusts, it would have a significant impact on our environment and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Agriculture. Locusts are known to swarm and can cause massive damage to crops. A sudden increase in the locust population could lead to widespread crop failures, famine, and economic losses for farmers and communities that depend on agriculture. Environment. Locust swarms can also cause environmental damage by eating vegetation, causing soil erosion, and changing the natural balance of ecosystems. This could have long-term effects on the environment and biodiversity. Human health. Locusts do not directly pose a risk to human health, but the use of pesticides to control the population could have negative health consequences for humans and other animals. Travel and transportation. The sheer number of locusts could make travel and transportation difficult, especially for airplanes, as they could interfere with engines and other systems. Social impact. The sudden appearance of a massive number of locusts could also have psychological and emotional impacts on people, causing anxiety, fear, and distress. Overall, a sudden increase in the locust population would have a severe impact on agriculture, the environment, and our daily lives. It would be essential to take immediate action to control the population and prevent any long-term consequences. Imagine the world suddenly experiencing death of animals. If the world suddenly experienced a significant death of animals, it would have a catastrophic impact on our environment and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Ecological impact. The loss of animal species would have a significant impact on the food chain and ecosystems. The disappearance of pollinators like bees and butterflies could lead to a decline in plant populations and a subsequent decline in the populations of animals that depend on them. Additionally, the loss of predators could lead to an increase in the populations of prey animals, which could also have negative consequences. Agriculture. The loss of animals that play a role in agriculture, such as livestock, could lead to a decrease in food production and economic losses for farmers. Human health. The loss of animal species could also have negative impacts on human health. For example, the disappearance of pollinators could impact the production of crops and subsequently impact human nutrition. Cultural and social impact. The loss of animals could also have cultural and social impacts. Many animals have cultural significance in different societies, and their disappearance could lead to a loss of cultural heritage and traditions. Climate change. The loss of animals could also have negative impacts on climate change. For example, the loss of trees and other plants could lead to increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, exacerbating the effects of climate change. Overall, a significant death of animals would have catastrophic consequences for our environment and daily lives. It would be essential to take immediate action to prevent any further loss of animal species and mitigate the long-term effects of such an event. Imagine the world where water turned to blood. If the world suddenly experienced a phenomenon where water turned to blood, it would have a severe impact on our environment and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Environmental impact. The transformation of water to blood would have catastrophic consequences for aquatic life, as many species of fish, plants, and other organisms that depend on water would be unable to survive. Additionally, the change in water quality could lead to an increase in bacterial growth and other harmful environmental impacts. Public health. The transformation of water to blood would also have significant impacts on public health, as water is essential for drinking, sanitation, and hygiene. The consumption of contaminated water could lead to widespread illness and disease outbreaks, including waterborne diseases like cholera and dysentery. Agriculture. The change in water quality would also impact agriculture, as crops and livestock require water for survival. The inability to irrigate crops and provide water for livestock could lead to crop failures and economic losses for farmers. Infrastructure. The transformation of water to blood would also impact infrastructure such as dams, water treatment plants, and pipelines. The change in water quality could damage equipment and structures, leading to costly repairs and infrastructure failures. Social impact. The sudden transformation of water to blood would have significant psychological and emotional impacts on people, causing fear, anxiety, and distress. Additionally, the loss of access to clean water could lead to social unrest and conflict over resources. Overall, the sudden transformation of water to blood would have catastrophic consequences for our environment, public health, agriculture, infrastructure, and social fabric. It would be essential to take immediate action to identify the cause of the phenomenon and develop solutions to mitigate its effects. Imagine the world where people woke up with boils all over their body. If the world suddenly experienced a phenomenon where people woke up with boils all over their body, it would have a severe impact on public health and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Public health impact. Boils are usually caused by bacterial infections, and a sudden outbreak of boils would be a sign of a significant public health crisis. The spread of the bacteria that causes the boils could be rapid, leading to widespread illness and disease outbreaks. Additionally, the boils could cause pain and discomfort, making it difficult for people to perform their daily activities. Economic impact. The outbreak of boils would have significant economic impacts, as many people would be unable to work or go to school due to illness. The cost of treating the outbreak, including medical care, medication, and disinfection, would also be substantial. Social impact. The outbreak of boils could lead to social unrest and panic, as people try to avoid contact with those who are infected. Additionally, the stigma associated with the boils could lead to discrimination and ostracism. Infrastructure impact. The outbreak of boils could also impact infrastructure such as hospitals, clinics, and other medical facilities. The sudden influx of patients with boils could overwhelm the capacity of medical facilities, leading to a shortage of medical supplies and equipment. Psychological impact. The outbreak of boils could have significant psychological impacts on people, causing anxiety, fear, and distress. The uncertainty about the cause of the outbreak and the potential for the disease to spread could cause widespread panic and mental health problems. Overall, the sudden outbreak of boils all over people's bodies would have catastrophic consequences for public health, the economy, infrastructure, and social fabric. It would be essential to take immediate action to identify the cause of the outbreak, contain its spread, and provide medical care and support for those affected. Imagine a world without the sun. If the world suddenly had no sun, it would have a catastrophic impact on our environment and daily lives. Here are some possible changes that could occur. Climate change. The sun is a critical component of the Earth's climate system, and its absence would cause a dramatic cooling effect. Temperatures would drop rapidly, and weather patterns would change, leading to ice age-like conditions in many parts of the world. This would have a significant impact on agriculture, ecosystems, and human populations. Energy. The sun is the primary source of energy for life on Earth, and its absence would impact energy production and consumption. Solar power would no longer be viable, and alternative sources of energy would be needed to power homes, businesses, and transportation. Ecosystems. The absence of the sun would have a catastrophic impact on ecosystems, as many plants and animals depend on it for survival. Photosynthesis. The process by which plants produce food requires sunlight, and the lack of it would lead to a collapse in many food chains. Additionally, many animals, such as reptiles and insects, rely on the sun for warmth and regulation of their internal body temperature. Food. The loss of the sun's energy would lead to a decline in crop production, and food shortages could occur in many parts of the world. Livestock would also suffer, as they rely on plants for food. Human health. The absence of the sun would have negative impacts on human health, as it is essential for the production of vitamin D, which is necessary for healthy bones and other bodily functions. Additionally, the lack of sunlight could lead to depression and other mental health problems. Overall, the absence of the sun would have catastrophic consequences for our environment, energy, ecosystems, food production, and human health. It would be essential to take immediate action to address the challenges and find alternative sources of energy, food, and ways to sustain life.